And I'll rise up, rise like the day, and I'll rise up, rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, high like the waves, and I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again.
Yep. I don't think you like moving. Come on. That's yours. Alright. I don't know what else to do, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's jump to 9. I don't know what else to do. You're very fine. You're very fine. What is this? Okay.
And I'm teaching you this particular song because in the afternoon I'm going to give you a talk about coming out of the storm. And you know what? Do you know what is the story about Jesus and the storm? So this song is called With Christ in the Vessel. This song doesn't really need guitar, but if you want, you can play in key. Okay, because there's with Christ. You might want to follow me. With Christ in the vessel, Christ in the vessel, we can smile at the storm, smile at the storm, smile at the storm. With Christ in the vessel, we can smile at the storm as we go sailing home. Okay? The last one is the easiest, right? Let's go sailing home. Alright. Let me try again. With Christ in the vessel, we can smile at the storm, smile at the storm, smile at the storm. With Christ in the vessel, we can smile at the storm as we go sailing home. Okay, then now the chorus goes like sailing, sailing home. The boat is rocking, sailing home. Christ in the vessel, we can smile at the storm as we go sailing home. Yeah? Okay? Now, the challenge is that we're going to do it faster and we're going to do a few rounds. And each time we do it, we're going to omit, we're going to remove a word. Okay? And we're going to see who forgets to remove the word, and there will be a fun game, we can laugh, there will be a laugh. With Christ in the vessel, we can smile at the storm, smile at the storm, smile at the storm. With Christ in the vessel, we can smile at the storm as we go sailing home. Okay, we're going to go a bit faster. Christ in the vessel, we can smile at the storm, smile at the storm, smile at the storm. Christ in the vessel, we can smile at the storm vessel we can smile at the storm. Smile at the storm. Smile at the storm. Let's go into smile at the storm as we go sailing home. Sailing, sailing home. Sailing, sailing home. In the vessel we can smile at the storm as we go sailing home. Now we remove vessel as well, okay? With in the smile at the storm, smile at the storm, smile at the storm. In the we can smile at the storm as we go sailing home. Sailing, sailing home. Come on, sing, sailing home. We can smile at the storm as we go sailing home. Okay. And it goes on, this song you can go on and on. You can remove all the words until there's absolutely nothing but silence.
But why I wanted to share this song with you was because the song is about habits. When you hear a song, the tune sticks in your head, right? Can you remember the tune now? You remember the tune. Can you remember the actions? Yes, you can. But if you sing it a lot of times, it becomes something that sticks in your brain, and then you get used to it. Correct or not? That's the same thing that happens in our daily lives. We eat every day, lunch, breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's a habit, right? You get hungry, you go open the fridge, you get food. Sundays or even Saturday evenings, we expect to come to church. How many of you missed church when we were in the lockdown during the pandemic? How many of you, truly, you missed church? Most of us. So how many of you felt that something was missing? Yeah, okay. So that's my point about habits. We create all these kind of habits, and these habits are pretty important because it helps us to get on with our lives. But sometimes the habits become that thing that controls us. Does that make sense? For some of us, okay, I'll give you an example. For some of us, I'll give you an example, okay? We wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you need to do? What's the first thing you do when you get up? And then? What's the first thing?
Breathe.
Huh?
Breathing all the time.
You breathe in. Hey, yeah, you know, that's true, you know. You know the first thing that I do? I take a breath. How many of us can say that if you're dead? No, right? We can't say that, right? But we take it for granted. It's true, we do. We take it for granted. That the minute I open my eyes, I can take a breath. So I think you get the point of what I'm trying to tell you. That we have so many habits built into our lives. We started with the song. The song was just an example, okay, of something so simple. I just taught you this right now. But imagine some of the things you've been doing for the past 10 years of your life. For those of you who are older, 40, 50 years of your life, you've been doing it over and over again without realizing it. And these habits actually form who we are. It forms our thinking, our logic, our thought processes, even our prejudices. How we look at someone and we say, no, I don't like that. It forms us. It forms our attitude to faith as well. When we come to see God, how do we say yes to God? When Reshma was asking you, amen? She said that, right? How did you respond? You respond amen, but she had to say louder, loud. Why? Because it was not our habit. It really wasn't our habit. For some people, it is their habit, but not for everyone. And the thing is that the question that you need to ask yourselves, what do you want to make as your habit? With the fast, We do this every year. Most of us, we've done it every year because we see a good habit. What is in this habit is that we come together to celebrate something. We don't come here to cry and say, oh, I'm so hungry. Why do I have to do this? Nobody does that, right? We all look forward to the fast. Am I correct or not? Everybody looks forward to the fast. I look forward. Even though it is a lot of work to organize the Fast 24, I looked forward to it. I was very excited. I still am. And the reason is because it creates a new habit for me. And it breaks my habit. It breaks the habit that I'm so used to. Don't even talk about, whether or not I get involved in church or what. It starts with me first, my personal habits. Some people, they wake up in the morning, they need to have their breakfast and they spend an hour watching TV, right? Correct? You need to. Why? It's a habit. For another person, they wake up in the morning and they need to check their emails. Right? Correct? Yeah, you need to check your emails. Another person looks at Instagram or Facebook. Why? When you wake up in the morning, do you say, "Good morning, Lord"? Do you say that? Do you say, "Good morning, thank you for this morning, I'm alive"? Do we? How many of you do that? Awesome. See? There's a few people that very well, very good. Do you think that's a good habit? Yeah, we all say yes, huh? Okay, we all say. So it's like me teaching you a song, okay? The first time I teach you the song, we are not very well coordinated. Even me, I was teaching you the song with Christ in the back. I was like, whoa, I lost my actions, right? Because I was trying to multitask. And that can happen to us too when we are very busy and caught up in things in life, with your exams, with the stress in work, and so on and so forth. So today, let's take that time to just be with each other, to listen to what we're going to learn from our speakers. Shortly, we're going to get Dennis and B to come up, and they're going to talk to us about breaking the habit. That's our session 2.
Yeah, we are very attached to the church. Who remember Father Lumen? The hall is named after Father Lumen, and the Schoenstatt sisters when they were here. Yeah, so they actually developed our faith. We were converts when, in fact, my son, 1 year old, he was the first one to be baptized in the church, and then B, and then myself. So yeah, it's been a journey for us over 30 odd years. So it's really enjoyable journey, and we get to meet a lot of people over the years. So it's an honor to be invited by David to come and share with you all our learnings, and hopefully we can grow together. We are by no means experts in this field, and we're not professional speakers. So this is just our lay interpretation of the Fratelli Tutti, not Tutti Frutti, okay? Fratelli Tutti. And I'll unpack it into simple language, everyday language that hopefully children can understand as well. So there was a very elderly priest and a crazy bus driver who is always in a hurry, always run through the red lights. And they both lived to a ripe old age, and then they died on the same day in the same hospital. So they end up in heaven because they're both good people. And unfortunately, St. Peter had a day off, so God himself came down to the pearly gates and met up with the two gentlemen. And then God says to the priest, "Hey, you wait. I want a bus driver to come to the front of the queue." And then the priest, "That is so unfair," complained the priest. And God replied, "Wow, while you were giving your long homilies, people were dozing off and going to sleep." Then he turned to the bus driver and he smiled at the bus driver and said, "You, on the other hand, when you were driving, people were reaching out to me to save them and praying for their lives." So, what's the moral of the story? So the moral of the story is, in times of turmoil and discord, which David touched on just then, we tend to seek out God and ask for his help. But when things are good, things are smooth sailing. We just take things for granted, don't we? Yeah. God is never there because we're in control. So, yeah, hope you remember that story. Break the habit, living out our daily sanctity through solidarity, universal fraternity, and social friendship in an open world society. There's a lot of words to take in, but hopefully we can unpack that. And each word has got a very strong meaning behind, and hopefully you will take something away. So I'm going to give you quite a few keys to take away. Unless you apply them in your life, you basically wasted the 2 hours. So I'm going to encourage you to really take notes. And I believe Jeremy's got a question survey at the end of the day to see how much you remember, so you'll get to remember things again. So I'll hand back to B. This is an endearing, you can call it a poem that we shared when we first met, and it still means a lot to us after 32 years of marriage. Is it 33 or 32?
33.
Yeah, I forget. Okay.
Happiness is a butterfly which, when pursued, is just beyond your grasp. But if you will sit down quietly, may light upon you. Nathaniel Hawthorne.
Thank you, B. That's very nice, isn't it? Very beautiful. So Fast 24, what is it all about? It's really for us also is to pause in our busy lives, spend time with our Lord and God, and God-loving people like yourself, just to enrich our faith and those around us with like-minded people. And everyday sanctity, what is it? Does anyone want to have a guess what sanctity means?
Remaining pure.
Yeah, purity, holiness. Good. Yeah, it's to take time out in a day, and it's just good to pause, take a deep breath, go for a walk with your loved one, spend quality time with friends and family. So really nice to see family, dads and moms with the children here today. And then to spend time in the garden, I love doing that. Go out, admire and smell the roses, and let the butterfly do its work. So you don't have to rush, you don't have to, be busy. I love this quote, do we eat to live or do we live to eat? It's an intriguing question. It depends how you look at it. You eat to live, to survive, but you eat to live to survive, but you live to eat to enjoy the things that God graces us with. Okay? So in my work in big mining company, we always complain about being busy, very busy, say to the boss. But he always turns around and challenges us. Are you busy being busy, or are you busy and are you busy doing the wrong things? Are you adding value to the work you do? So every hour you spend at work, are you adding value to the business? So in our lives, it's the same every day. No matter who we are, where we are, God gives us 24 hours, 1,440 minutes, 86,400 seconds, no more, no less. Okay? Do you fill up our day with things and stuff? Are we putting value into every hour in our daily lives? So we do need some, don't get me wrong, we do need some leisure and recreation. We need time to chill out, recreate ourselves, play music, which I do. I'm learning to play. Are we spending too much time indulging in the compulsive and addictive habits, just like online gaming, TVs, gambling, drinking? Or we could spend good quality time reaching out to people, engaging with families, siblings, friends, neighbors, or someone that we don't even know, but just needs to be listened to. So it's a fact, 1 in 5 people in Australia suffer from mental health illness issues. And with COVID-19, probably 1 in 3. So if you look around you, if you count 5 or 4 or 3, someone's actually having issues up there. So it's okay to ask, are you okay? And if they say they're not, listen. You don't have to solve their problem for them. Sometimes they just want to be listened to. So are we so caught up in the daily grind and humdrum that we forget to give time and offer ourselves to less fortunate people? And can you imagine what would happen if Jesus had that attitude? You know, I'm too busy, don't talk to me, go away. So it's sad because like 2 nights ago when we got home after helping setting up the church, the hall, we got a message that one of my friends from primary school, this is going back like 40 years now. I've always wanted, every time I go back to Singapore, I always wanted to catch up with Anthony. But I never did for 40 years. And the message I got was that he's passed away. And suddenly all my former classmates are coming together. So it took a tragedy for us to come together. Wouldn't it be better if we had actually made the effort and caught up with him, got to know the families and so on? But anyway, today, I guess it's nothing new to a lot of people. It's, when you drive a car, you really need to tune up your engine every now and again. And when you have musical instruments, you need to tune your musical instruments just to keep it in tune and performing at the peak condition. With COVID-19 and the lockdown, it actually made me reassess what life is all about. You know, it's first of all, it's your God, our God, your physical and spiritual health, your family, your friends, your job, and your financial well-being, in that sort of order, right? So your job doesn't come first, your friends doesn't come first, God comes first, your family, your health. Without health, you can't have your family. I'm just going to make it as fun and interactive as possible. So please put your hand up anytime and do question, comment, challenge, offer your thoughts. Who knows the Australian winner of the Tour de France and what year he won that championship? Does anybody have a guess? You should know, Bob. No? It's a man called Cadel Evans in 2011. And you'll be wondering, what's this got to do with the topic, No One is Safe Alone? And I'll show you why it's so relevant in our lives. That event generally happens between late June to late July. And I always wonder why it took so long, almost a full month, for competition. It covers over 3,000 kilometers in France, 20 different stages. And this is the 108th time they had that event. So they are supposed to depart in Brittany, but due to the COVID interruptions, the European football schedule and the sporting schedule, and even the 2021 Olympics was all affected. So they actually pushed it back. We can see the mascot, that's my favorite photo, the big lion. And you can see from here, they start on the northwestern area of France and they go down in the clockwise direction. Just you, gets you back on your feet. He sent his angels and a bit of tender loving care. So he starts on the road to recovery. And you go past the finishing line, what a feeling. So, does everyone relate to that? The passage of life, the ups and downs, good? And then screaming out to God, God, why have you forsaken me? Right, I'd just like to pause there. Does anyone want to share some thoughts about their own personal situation? Maybe they're right in the doldrums, in the valley, and they're going up the mountain. Or they may be at the top of the mountain, they're great, feeling $1 million. Who is at the top of the mountain at the moment? Nobody? I think I am, yeah. I have good life, good wife, good sons. I've had everything I wanted. When I go shopping, except for my wife, there's nothing for me to buy, you know? So what more do I want? So what I'm terrified of though is on the way down, what God has in store for me. Would there be health issues or would there be tragedies in life? This is the one and only time that I'll talk about Fratelli Tutti. It means total brotherhood. Doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people until you really dive in. It's 8 chapters of very significant reading. I must admit, I confess I didn't read all 8 chapters. I went to the internet, Googled it, got the good bits, and here we are sharing this with you. So it was taken from the admonitions of St. Francis of Assisi, the third encyclical letter of the Holy Father. It was written in October 2020 on fraternity and social friendship. I guess he saw at that time that the COVID pandemic was actually getting out of hand, and it was being managed by the various nations of the world. And some countries got success, like Taiwan, Australia definitely were in the best state that any country can be. But conversely, in the US, they're in terrible shape. So the pontiff indicates that to build a better, more just and peaceful world with the contribution of everyone, people, institutions, saying no to war and to globalized indifference is a necessity in our ordinary relationship in social life, politics, and institutions. So the encyclical aims to promote a universal aspiration towards fraternity and social friendship. And COVID-19 definitely unexpectedly erupted our lives, and he was writing this letter. But the global health emergency has helped demonstrate that no one can face life in isolation. Hence, no one is safe alone. And the time has truly come as a single human family in which we are all brothers and sisters. So no one can go at it alone.
My reflection is actually about 2 tiny fishes named Nemo and Dory. My part is the interesting section. But I will share the ending about Nemo and Dory at the end of our presentation.
Okay, good, thanks. So there's inconvenient truth is more than just climate change, right? The Pope says there are more than one pandemic in our lives. It's not just climate change, it's not just COVID-19. There's inequality, racism, xenophobia. The list goes on. Let's have a brainstorm session. What else is there? Give me a few. Good. Bushfires, yes. And? Mental health, good. More? Pablo, full of ideas. Good, terrific. Yeah, poverty.
Go on.
Yes, very good. Very topical. Abuse, yeah. Job losses.
Job
yes.
losses, yes.
And I've got a few here. Hunger, human trafficking, corruption, greed, and power. Power can be bad, can be good. So, notice that when it comes to the pandemics, it's usually the work of the evil one. Let's look at what God has provided, the wonders of the world, the potentials, the prospects. Can you name a few? Right in front of you, right now. Not too difficult, surely. Faith, hope, love, kindness, generosity. So we struggle to recognize the gifts of God, and yet we are so quick in recognize the pandemics of the world. Okay? So take time out, again, reflect, smell the roses, appreciate what God's provided us. So when you look at the fertility 2T, there are 5 key aspects, and these are the 5 keys I'm going to leave with you. So the first one, do you want to read it out together? First one. Good. Number 2. Thank you. Number 3. Number 4.
Bringing what has just been said and breaking it down into a personal level allow me to share this with you. When I was a very young girl in school, I used to dislike people who are different from me. I don't know how to call it, so I call it the haves and the have-not syndrome. Looking back, I felt I was a rather self-centered child. However, when came time for a class prefect to be appointed, I was totally surprised and amazed. Everyone, including those I did not expect, picked me. Not only this, I appeared to be the teacher's pet. I really didn't know why, but I didn't care because I was enjoying the wonderful privileges. Until one day, I bothered to ask one of the most quiet classmates. Her response surprised me. She says, "B, you listen."
I listen to you too, don't I? Yeah, I know. Number 2, the parable of the Good Samaritan. Who is that stranger? Who is my neighbor? So if you read the Bible, there was an outsider whom the leaders, priests, and Levites passed off as a stranger, nobody, a Mr. Nobody. So the Good Samaritan comes across him, gives the injured man on the road to Jericho the gift of his time. All right, I like those words, gift of his time. A compassionate and well-intended encounter. So it's a deliberate action. He just, yeah. And encountering people different from us makes us more aware of the social issues that cause the sufferings of our neighbor and brothers and sisters. So one example of hope, the Pope emphasizes that in a healthy society that turns its back on suffering and is illiterate in caring for the frail and vulnerable, we are called, just like the Good Samaritan, to become neighbors to others, to overcome prejudices, personal interests, and cultural barriers. We are co-responsible in creating a society that is inclusive, and to be able to integrate and lift up those who have fallen or are suffering. So love builds bridges. I love that quote. And we were made for love. Do we recognize Christ in the face of the other excluded person?
So listening is encountering. According to how I feel what the Pope's passage is about, I encounter the guy that has just been robbed. So how then can I listen to God's word and encounter people in my daily life? First, I need to listen to God. How do I listen to God is how I see God. I am obedient to Him. I keep quiet and I listen to what He wants to tell me. Here is my share on a true encounter I was told happened not so long ago. A teacher had problems teaching Dory, a difficult child. She was getting very frustrated and saw Dory as very disruptive in class and beyond help. She complained to the principal and referred to Dory as a weed among beautiful flowers. The principal's response was quite unexpected. He said, "Be patient, even weeds are flowers too." I just reiterate what Janice just said. Love built bridges, and we were made for love. Do we recognize Christ in the face of every excluded person? Who really do you think is the neighbor in my story? Dory, the teacher, or the principal? Or all of the three above? Who is the one in authority? And who is the obedient one? Who is the accountable one? Who is the one that serves? Where is the encountering here, and where do you see is the core responsibilities?
So how are we doing so far? Okay, good. So when you digest that passage that we just shared, and when you look at what Father shared last night, and we didn't sort of plan this together, it just come together, and it struck me when Father was speaking. So there was this element of disappointment, the father being disappointed, or the teacher being disappointed with the difficult child. And then there was this opposition and obedience And then the final revelation that every weed is also a flower, right? So, yeah, I think the more I look into it, the more I start to understand things better. The third aspect is the sharing of wealth and resources. Again, this kind of hints of the thing I would mention about being selfish. So our God-given graces, talents and riches, and it's good to see the musicians and everyone else is offering the gifts of time and the gifts of talent to make this Fast 24 successful. They're not meant to be kept to ourselves. So I can say to David, no, I've got no time, David, sorry. I got a shopping to do, I got my garden to look after. But I find it really rewarding to be able to share and learn and grow myself. So we are meant to share freely, unconditionally with our brothers and sisters, neighbors and communities. So graces must be passed on. It's like water flowing in a stream or under the bridge. If the water stops flowing, it starts to breed mosquitoes, algae growth, and so on. So this is graces from God. You must pass it on. It's like money. If you keep it under the pillow, the economy will suffer. So unless you spend the money and help somebody and then they spend, the economy will just strive. So developed nations also waste a lot of tons and tons of food, while other countries are starving to death. Rich nations are exploiting the poorer ones, and then they're driving them into debts as well, which they know they can't pay back, so they are forever indebted to the people that loan the money. And with COVID-19, and this was shared, the bushfire and the floods, and the COVID-19 vaccine is certainly the topical subject today in terms of how we share around the world. Any questions so far? Thoughts? The sharing of wealth and resources, the key words there is capacity to love and a universal dimension, an open world, looking for Christ in the other, and love takes the first place. And we'll touch on solidarity and fraternity. So the capacity to love according to an universal dimension is true, envisaging and engendering an open world. So your mind's got to be open. It's like a parachute. It doesn't work unless you open. So we must go outside the self, not just be an introvert, but express yourself in order to find a fuller existence in another, the Christ in the other person. So the spiritual stature of a person's life is measured by love, which always takes first place, and leads us to seek better for the life of the other. Far from all selfishness, the sense of solidarity and fraternity begin within the family, which should be safeguarded and respected. The right to live with dignity cannot be denied to anyone. Since one's rights have no borders, no one can remain excluded, regardless of where they are born. The Pontiff calls us to consider an ethics of international relations. This is stretching out towards the wider scale of nations, where every country also belongs to foreigners and the goods of the country cannot be denied to those from another place who are in need. On the issue of foreign debt, where it must be repaid, it is hoped that this does not compromise the growth and subsistence or survival of the poorest country. It's very, very complex reading for the younger generation. But I can explain to you if you want to learn a bit more about that. So I'll hand back to B.
So what do I hear from what can I understand as a child, as a child of God, you know? So open world, I hear open world here being mentioned. So open world needs open heart. So what is this open heart all about? It is building His kingdom. It means building from here where you are right now, this moment in time, a world pleasing to God the Father. You don't have to look very far. Look at yourself, the giving of yourself, whether in music ministry, whether in the prayer ministry with Vagis, to the treasury of grace that we have, the altar there that you see with Trish. Can we do better? Maybe if David called us to go and sing in Clongtarf with the Aboriginal people, that's our neighbor. That's building His kingdom. That's opening your heart. So do we keep withdrawing from the treasury account, or do we keep adding to it? It is just a matter of dropping a few dollars into a basket? Or can we do more by giving more of ourselves to building a better family of God? Do what you can from where you are. You see a friend falling down, you rush to pick them up, or you stand by and help your friend bully the other person and not be doing the bullying, but actually watch the friend bullying. So you condone to the robber doing the robbing in the Good Samaritan story. That's what the Pope is trying to tell you. So by not giving in to your friend, you go and help the victim who is the one being bullied. You are stopping the robber from cutting out people's organs, selling it again, drug trafficking, homeless shelter, making breakfast for the orphans, right?
So the final aspect that we'd like to share, you've actually reached the top of the mountain. So this is the rewarding part. So peering over the mountains, over the tops and over the horizon, you start to see the promised land almost. The Holy Father advocates that all people and nations promote the culture of care, collaboration, dialogue, and encounter. Listen and encounter our struggling brothers and sisters and neighbors, and giving of our time and talents. That's what B was talking about. Walking past and standing by a wrongdoing is condoning the action. You are equally as culpable as the perpetrator. And B touched on that. So the richer nations need to listen to the poorer nations and allowing them to sit at the table of particularly in the United Nations. Sometimes they don't get their voices heard. So I'll jump straight to B's for reflection. The personal encounter.
This is a personal encounter again. My experience of a culture of care, collaboration, dialogue, and encounter. Nemo, an older brother, was hoarding all the toys and not sharing with the younger siblings. So one of the younger siblings, Paul, complained to the father. The father just smiled and said, "When north and south clashes, sparks are bound to happen." The father did not offer a solution to the problem, maybe because he saw it as an opportunity to highlight the different gifts given by God to his children. Many, many years later, when Paul became a father, he remembered what his father said to him about being a good father, which is to serve. One day during a family dinner, Dory, the daughter of Paul, cut herself while eating a piece of corn on the dinner table. Both corn and plate ended up on the floor, creating a big mess. Instead of reprimanding his daughter Dory, Paul quietly got up, went into the kitchen pantry, came back with a broom and dustpan, swept up the mess. More than that, he gave his own piece of corn to Dory. Can you imagine what a better world this would be if nations of the world were to adopt the same attitude as Paul?
So that's the 5 keys, and I'll come back to them so that sort of really sinked in. But in fact, the encyclical goes on chapter 6, 7, and up to chapter 8, but I'll try and summarize that as much as I can because we are running out of time. Chapter 6 talks about dialogue and friendship. What does that really mean? It stresses the art of encounter, to be deliberate and reaching out, and to learn something from other people. So I'll again let you share, B, dialogue and friendship.
Dialogue and friendship. How do I internalize and understand this concept? I discern and I pray. That's for me, okay? It may not be for same for you. Also, I ask how this link to the art of encounter for me. I start with the sanctity hour, which Dennis said, you know, the sanctity hour for me means praying and walking with God. Many ways, but personally, it could involve reading scripture, or praying the rosary, or meditating on the four mysteries. I dialogue with God every day. We may pray fervently and a lot, but do we pause and really listen to Him? Do we just rant along with our prayer, or do we actually give time to ponder on God's word? For Dennis and myself, there's also our sanctity hour. Listen and obedience. We dialogue with God. Like any couple, we have our happy moments and sad moments too. When we are happy, we remember to thank God by doing more good things for others. When there is a fight and an unrest, we do what everyone does. Heated clashes and sparks are bound to happen.
That's when I go to the garden and smell the roses. Yeah, when we talk about sanctity hour, when you think about it, on the average day, how much time do you think you actually spend quality time with your spouse, your husband, or your wife? And I mean quality time, I don't mean, doing things together. How much time? You'd be surprised. I spend 8 hours a day at work with my co-workers and colleagues. But when it comes to my boys and my wife, I figure out I'll be lucky to spend more than 10 minutes quality time, undivided attention. So my challenge to everyone after this event is just take stock of how much time you spend with your son, your daughter, your wife, and really switch off the TV, no mobile phone, no interruption, just focus totally, 100%. It's quite a profound revelation, that are part of Father's Door. So, let's move on. Chapter 7 is about renewed encounter. It's a promotion of peace and paths of renewed encounter. It's a society based on service, pursuit of reconciliation and mutual development. And it says peace is actually an art. It's a never-ending task. Forgiveness is linked to peace. We must love everyone without exception. By loving an oppressor means helping him or her to change and not allowing him or her to continue oppressing his or her neighbor. Forgiveness does not mean impunity. To forgive does not mean to forget, but to renounce the destructive power of evil and the desire for revenge. So we mustn't forget the horrors of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and we should learn from that, and certainly the Holocaust. So, yeah, we can forgive, but we should not forget. And certainly when David spoke last night, that really, again, we didn't plan to say these things, but it's just come together again. What David said struck a chord with me, exactly what I wrote there.
Okay, with the pandemic, look at the pandemic. Look at how it's influenced your life. Pandemic has controlled you, you can't go out. But what do we do in renewed encounter? We want to trust God. How do we trust God in this time? We descend into peace. How do we pray? It's a lot to absorb. It's so daunting on you that it's hard. But with God, everything is possible. How do we see it? How do we see the words of Father talking about revelation? Let me share this with you. You look at this light here, okay? This is how I see God. God gives us invention. Light creates brightness at night so that we can read, we can cook, we can talk to our family, we can see our grandparents and socialize. But what do? We create the atomic bomb. That is why God didn't want, He allows things to happen, but He didn't want us to create the atomic bomb. Just like this pandemic, He can stop it. He can say, why is it here? I can't go on my holidays, I can't go to school, I can't go to work, I lost my job, my daughter is on drugs, I can't see my ailing mother, I can't go and visit my dying brother, because He can stop it, but He wants us to work for it. He wants to see how we're going to solve this problem. He wants us to renew our encounter with Him. So where do we renew our encounter? By you being here, you're already renewing your encounter with Him. And I thank you all for coming, because I'm going to end my talk about Nemo and Dory.
The final chapter is chapter 8. It talks about religion and fraternity. And that's where Holy Father says that terrorism is not due to religion, in fact. It's due to misinterpretations of religious texts or policies that are linked to hunger, to poverty, injustice, and oppression. Religion actually has very little to do with it. We talk about Muslims and terrorism, fanatical, But dig a bit deeper, you find that there are more underlying issues. So the role of the church is really not to engage in politics, but to strive for the common good and the concern for human development. And in fact, there was a document on human fraternity for world peace and living together. The Holy Father actually signed this document on the 4th of February in 2019 in Abu Dhabi with the Grand Imam Al-Azhar. It was a momentous inter-religious dialogue where different religions came together for the sake of world peace, and there was a common cooperation and mutual knowledge sharing, and they recognized that was the way forward. So, your part B. This is the fun bit, I think. This is
Okay, common world, open world. The individual. I'm only a tiny fish in a very big ocean. How do I do? How do I even make an impact in this big world? I seek the treasury of grace. The families is the nucleus. That's in Laetitia Amore, his second encyclical by the Pope Francis. It is the first cell of the church, which is going to be the talk for the homily for next week when Jesus cleansed the temple. One tiny fish in a very big ocean meets another tiny fish from another ocean. They pair together, and through mutual development or co-responsibility produce many, many more tiny fishes. All the tiny fishes comes together for mutual development to form a big school of tiny fishes.
Okay, before we jump into that, we've thrown a lot of things at you, so let me just recap. It's probably more than half a dozen keys for you to take away. And you can find the right keyhole to put your key in, right? But it's not going to do anything for you unless you apply it. You turn the key and the door opens, right? So that's the analogy I'd like for you to take away. So we talk about encounter, we talk about solidarity, treasury of graces, collaboration, dialogue, co-responsibility, pandemics, reconciliation, looking for Christ in the other person, daily sanctity, sharing of graces, cultures and people's dignity, and having open hearts for an open world, having family of nations. Any questions? Yeah. I put on my Nemo costume. Some of you are probably wondering why I brought this along. Has everyone watched the movie Finding Nemo? Has everyone not watched it? Let me find my costume. No, I wasn't preparing to go to work.
Look at me, my color.
So, Nemo's father was in fact looking for Nemo, Marlin. He started by himself in the world. Actually, this uniform matches quite nicely. So when we go to work, we says, let's put on the Nemo uniform. And then he met up with Dory. Can you remember anything, Dory?
I'm Dory.
She's in blue.
I know everything. What's my name again?
She has a short-term memory problem, right? So 1 becomes 2. And 2 becomes a family of 5, 6 in solidarity. And 6 become more. So it's amazing what one person can do. And finally, they had a big group of people. So I had this beautiful quote about solidarity. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do something that I can do. It's by an American author by the name of Edward Everett Hale. So the power of one is very great indeed, if you put it to good use. And so solidarity is about unifying vision, your unifying mission, unifying purpose, unifying goal, unifying direction, and finally unifying action. So unless everyone is pulling together, like when we put Fast 24 together, everyone's doing different things, but with a common mission. You can imagine that the chaos would be if someone decided, no, I'm going to come in and have a basketball game, I'm going to play badminton, I'm going to have a wedding, I'm going to do martial arts training. David will be tearing his hair out, right? So you've got to have a common vision, common goal, common action, and common direction. And that's what solidarity is all about. Disunity, unrest, disharmony, and anarchy if you have conflicting missions and conflicting purpose and goal. So we're getting close to the end, guys. So final prayer. If you read this together, please. Fast from hurting words and say kind words. Fast from sadness and be filled with gratitude. Fast from anger and be filled with patience. Fast from pessimism and be filled with hope. Fast from worries and have trust in God. Fast from complaints, contemplate complicity and prayerful. Fast from bitterness, fill your hearts with joy. Fast from selfishness and be compassionate. Fast from grudges and be reconciled. Fast from words, be silent and listen.
Do you notice that on this side, it's all like this? You zip your mouth. It's all about your own action, your own thought, and so you encounter with God. This is renewed encounter. This is what the Pope is trying to tell you. Dialogue and relationship. This is what we're doing here in Fast 24. Because alone, you are not safe. That's why we have that word there. No one is safe alone. That is why. Because God is good all the time. Christ is alive in all of us. We are His church.
Okay. Finally, before we sign off, I'd just like to thank David for giving us the opportunity to share our learning and reflection. I definitely have my faith enriched, and I actually grown to be a better person over the last 3-4 weeks while writing this stuff up. Here's the homework. What I'd like you to do is maybe just reflect on what we presented in your own personal space. What in the presentation is new to you? There's probably a lot of things, but I'll put up the slide. What areas can you identify that relate to yourself in your situation currently? And has this changed in any way your understanding of what the universal fraternity and social friendship really mean? And if how so? It's quite a lot. And then once you observe that, you can reflect what other pandemics do you know about that we haven't mentioned, that you yourself may be experiencing, and what can I do to help myself or yourself? Do you believe that you can actually make a difference to other people's lives? And do you believe, has your belief in yourself been negative, positive, pessimistic, or optimistic? Are you a people pleaser? And describe myself as a judgmental person in the way I view others. Do I avoid people whose attitudes and behavior are different? and your understanding of God is someone who loves you unconditionally, or someone who loves you only if you do as you are told. So don't worry too much. I'll put the slides up. And then to really make it work in your life, I spoke about action. So otherwise it's meaningless just listening to me and then you go home, then you forgot about what's being mentioned. How will this understanding and presentation affect your relation with yourself, with your family, others, and with God? Will this change the way you view yourselves and others and God? What do you need to change? And maybe just reflect on, in your stage of life, where are you in this Tour de France? Are you on the hill up there, or are you down the hill, or you actually crash landed? You need help. So how do you get up? Again, there's quite a lot of things there, but hopefully David can help me with this process. And I'll just put these things up there, so it's a reminder.
Heaven is in my heart. Heaven is in my heart.
You're welcome. Okay, so now it's the real deal, okay? Real deal. Ready, guys? Are we ready? 2, 3, 5 reading. 5 more. Take your own. Okay, next one. Man love goes. Okay, next one. Okay, next one is next one. Captain's coming. Come there. Find the rigging. Titanic. Titanic? Starboard. Man overboard. Front deck. What is that? Okay, this is the last two rounds. Okay? Starboard. Okay, ready? Okay, port. Titanic. Man overboard. Very well done, guys. And give it to the Celestial only, and we'll give you if it's the right answer, we'll give you the second riddle. So on and so forth. Second riddle, third riddle, fourth riddle. There's about 5 riddles, okay? The last riddle actually involves you to actually go out and the answer is something that is actually like materialistic. And once your team works it out, you have to actually go and get it and show it to me, and the winner of that is obviously the winner. Understood? Any questions? Okay, so I'm handing you guys the first riddle. You guys can take as much time as you want, okay? So first riddle. Go.
Yeah, that's the one. We know who's going to win. It's because they go, or this is not. Okay, what disappears as soon as you say it? You need more for this. What disappears on what? In silence. Okay, give me food and I will live. Give me water and I will
Joshua's original name, what is my name?
No matter what path we have opened on, hand one unto him. We have to go out. Got a winner!
God, we welcome you into this room right now, our ever-present help in time of need. God, I pray that you fill this room with your awesome presence and you heal our hearts and you heal our minds so that we may open our eyes to your love and witness your mercy, God. God, there's no one stronger, powerful, and more loving than you. I pray that we'll be reminded that we have the strongest defender by our side, who's fighting for us and who has never failed. Into the darkness you shine. Out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like you. None like you. Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer. Awesome in power, our God, our God. Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power, our God, our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God, our God. Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power, our God, our God. Oh, I've heard 1,000 stories of what they think you're like, but I've heard the tender whisper of love in the dead of night, and you tell me that you're pleased and that I'm never alone. 'Cause you're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. And I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers. Only you provide, 'cause you know just what we need before we say a word. 'Cause you're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're who I am. Bridge. 'Cause you're perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. One more time. You're perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You're a good, good Father. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am.
This year, during Lent, is a great time to reflect on our lives as we lead up to the wonderful feast of Easter. And this year, I've been focusing on Pope Francis's words. I do love Pope Francis. I think he gives us lots of wisdom. And just a few of the things that he said that I've been thinking about and encourage you to is fast from saying hurting words and say kind words. Fast from pressures and be prayerful. Fast from bitterness and fill your heart with joy. Fast from words and be silent so you can listen. Have a wonderful, wonderful Fast 24.
Hi everyone, it's Mary here. I'd like to share a word or two about Lent and what Lent means to me. I used to go, what will I give up for Lent? What will I give up for Lent? But lately I've been saying, what will I take up? I'll take up joy. I'll take up feeling grateful. This Lent has been very special. I took on an online retreat. Who would have thought? It has been amazing, an absolutely beautiful journey. So, as you take up the challenge of Fast 24, I wish you every blessings of the infinite love of God as you journey towards Easter.
The words of Vincent Pallotti came to mind, how he wanted to really be like Jesus. And so he committed himself to thinking before he did anything of how Jesus would perform that particular task. And that's what I've decided to do. I've decided to do something different this Lent, and I've decided that I'd copy Vincent and copy Jesus. And before I perform any mundane task that I have before me, I'm going to think, how would Jesus be doing that? So God bless, and please pray for me that I'm able to continue through Lent doing what Vincent would have done. Thanks.
Some friends in Melbourne who wanted to take part in Fast 24, but they can't because there's no Fast 24 there this year. And I wanted to share this with you because it's about a whole bunch of people around the world that you don't know yet. But they actually are very keen to support what we are doing here. Because we only think about the world that we've got, and we don't realize that there's a world beyond. Just like, for example, when we come for Stations of the Cross, right? Yesterday, we had the Station of the Cross, and all the attention was on the front. Now, did any of you notice the posters around? Some of you did, right? Did you go and have a look at what the posters are about? No? Okay, they contain an image from each of the Palestine nations around the world. How many countries are there on the stations? Do you know? I was asking Jeremy the question because he's going to give a trivia quiz later. Jerry, do you know how many countries? Don't tell the answer if you know, but do you know? Later you can go and check, okay? I've also got a video I want to show you, so just... It's sometimes it's one of the ironies, you know, we come to church and we come to Mass and we get involved in the ministry, or some of us don't. We just come to church, okay? Sometimes we don't turn up for Mass and we think no one's going to notice. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to bring up and say, oh, Father, I'm not coming to church. Nobody does that, right? Any of you do that? Hey, Father, for this Sunday, I'm not coming to church, okay? Because no one's going to miss you anyway. So, I mean, why would you tell Father, right? We don't. But if you had a relationship with a friend and say, okay, Cyrus and I say we're going to play basketball together, okay? And I can't make it. Do you think I'll tell Cyrus? Cyrus, give me a friend look. Yeah, of course, if we are friends, I would, right? That's normal, isn't it? So isn't it a bit strange that if we have a relationship with our parish, we don't tell anybody when we don't turn up? Does it matter? Does it? Does it matter? Is it odd? Usher again? Yeah. So, you know, it gives something there, food for thought. Even for youth, you know, when we have youth ministry, sometimes people don't turn up and don't say anything. Does it make sense? That we don't actually talk to each other, we just say, I can't make it. We do miss you, you know. Fast 24. There's a few people who are not here. I do miss them. I know who they are. They're not here, but you know, I'll probably catch up with them in another time. It's okay. It's okay if you can't be there. But the relationship is something we want to maintain. It's very important. Now, coming back to what I was saying about all these people around the world, why are they contributing all these things to us? All I did was just say, hey, we're going to do Fast 24. Would you like to do something? And I gave a little idea. I said we could make a 1 minute video or other ways to pray. And they said, yeah, they'll do it. Why? My interpretation of it is that they wanted to feel part of something bigger. Do you want to be part of something bigger? Yes or no? That's why you're here, right? I come to Fast 24 because I love being with you. This is true. I could be sitting down at home, you know, watching TV. Why bother, right? So much work. I love it. And I want to be part of something bigger because I believe in my church. I believe in the Catholic Church. I believe that being Catholic is about something bigger than just coming to Mass. Now, this is the thing though. When we talk about what Jesus asked us to do in the Gospel, do you know what is the Great Commandment? Have you heard of that? What's the greatest commandment Jesus gave us? Yeah. What's the second? Love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? And what's his last commandment? Before he ascended to heaven, he said to the, anybody know? Go tell everybody, right? Tell everyone. Remind ourselves.
Preach the good news to the end of the nations.
Thank you, God. Yeah. We need to remind ourselves sometimes. It's to tell the nations, tell the world. And we often forget that because we just come to Mass and it's a habit. We just do that. Every week we just do that. And we forget to go and evangelize. So all these people here around the world, in Melbourne as well, around the world, they've actually done this because they want to share the experience of Jesus with us, who are supposed to be evangelized. Isn't that amazing? They have a story to tell. Through the photos there that they've taken, those are photos from their hard work, and they are part of missions. These missions are not just ordinary missions, they are Palestine missions. And the last speaker over there, his name is Steve. He was talking about Vincent. How many of you know who Vincent is? Okay, so Vincent is actually the name of St. Vincent Pallotti. St. Vincent Pallotti is the, I would say, the patron saint of the Pallottines. He is the one that, so Father Paul You guys know Father Paul, right? Father Paul is his order, his religious order. They are all disciples of Saint Vincent Pallotti. And Saint Vincent Pallotti was an Italian saint. I forgot which century. Trisha, what century was it? In the 18th century. Yeah, it was in the 18th century. And during the 18th century, St. Vincent lived in Rome. And he wasn't a saint yet, obviously. But what happened was that the very large part of Europe had been conquered by Napoleon. You guys know Napoleon? You study history? Napoleon was a French general and eventually became an emperor and he conquered the place. And he was actually very anti-Christian. Why? Because he felt that the church was interfering a lot in governments and all that, and he wanted to control everything. So many people in Rome at the time were very fearful of being persecuted, especially the priests. They would go around, do their work, but they would not wear the priest's collar, so that people wouldn't recognize. St. Vincent was very different. He dared to say who he was. Okay? But there were so many priests who were out of work at the time because they had to close all the churches because of all the problems in Europe. It was not just the problem of Napoleon. There was also poverty. There was disease. There was a lot of things. St. Vincent made a stand. He believed in what he believed, and he went about getting people around his local church to come together and be involved in reaching out to other people. I'm putting it in the last judgment. And in the last judgment, Jesus is up in heaven and he separates the sheep from the goats. You know the story? The sheep from the goats? Okay, when you have free time, many of you are very good at your mobile phones, you can Google it, okay? Matthew 25, yeah? Then go and tell us what.
I think it was like the sheep were placed on the right hand of the Father and the goats were separated to the left hand. And to the right hand of his side, he said that all the other places in heaven and good people and being judged to be like a ticket entry to the kingdom of God. Whereas to the left side, he said that they were bad people, they did not harm any people. I'm not really sure. Yeah.
It was a good introduction. Thank you, Harsha. Come on, she did well. Yeah, she tried. She got most of the story right. Yeah. So anyway, I'd like you to check it out. I think there's a few Bibles lying around. You might want to tell it. But what I want to tell you about this is that story, goat versus sheep, has become a meme today on the internet. Those of you who are into social media, you know what GOAT stands for nowadays? G-O-A-T. Anybody can guess? Yeah, you know. So what is it? What is it?
Greatest of all time.
Greatest of all time. You get it? G-O-A-T. Greatest of all time. If you add an S with greatest of all time, superstars. And who are these G-O-A-T, S or G-O-A-T? They are some of the world's top athletes. Who's your favorite footy player? No? Who's your favorite tennis star? Roger Federer. You know, there are all these, everybody's out for fame. So GOATs is all about who is the richest, who is the most famous, who is the best in the sporting field and all that. You know, that's what GOAT stands for. You know what
sheep stand for? Do you know what sheep stand for? Can you guess? Okay, in your little groups, quick, what do you think sheep stand for? You can be as fun, hilarious as you want. The answer is rain. Do you believe it? Rain. I'll show you. I'll prove it to you. This is not a photo. This is a So when you look at what's going on here in the standing area, they look a bit stupid, right? It's heavy rain and they're standing there. But what we can't sense with our immediate self, because the video is two-dimensional, is this. The sheep has got a coat. And if you ever touch a sheep when you go on a tour or holiday, right? Maybe you go Marble River or somewhere in WA. If you have the chance to touch a sheep, your hand feels a bit waxy, a bit oily. And that's something called lanolin. You heard lanolin? At home, your mom might have a hand moisturizer or something where you rub your hand. Now this, the wool, it has particular kind of scales, and these scales are water resistant. If the wool was soaked with water, what do you think will happen to the sheep? It'd be too heavy, right? Couldn't move, right? But God has given these sheep a natural ability where when the rain falls on the wool, it just slowly bounces off the side. And then it goes down and then it keeps down. So that's why they stand still. Because when they stand still, it reduces the surface area. I think there's a few engineers here, right? So you probably can understand what I'm talking about. When the rain rains, it stands still and reduces the surface area so that it doesn't soak up so much. Of course, if you throw the sheep in water, it's another story, right? But this is just rain. Yeah. So they just stand still in the rain. And this is the reason why you have to herd the sheep. You cannot just leave the sheep out in the rain, out in bad weather. A shepherd needs to come to herd the sheep back to the farm, into shelter. I'm telling you this story because it is symbolic of our relationship with God. Sometimes we go through struggles and we say, yeah, we're alright, we're okay. Sometimes the person may be feeling depressed. Yeah, I'm okay, I handle it. Like the sheep in the rain, I've got my shield, my wool, But we don't realize that if you stay out there too long, you're going to be carrying a very heavy burden and eventually you just can't move. You'll be paralyzed. So along comes someone, the shepherd, and maybe one of us to help bring us in. This story was something that I shared with some of my friends this year. And it was because I wanted to put across this simple idea. No one is safe alone. Sometimes we don't realize that we are out in the same pasture with others. And we don't realize we are all in the same boat, so to speak. You know the story of Jesus in the boat with the disciples? Who can tell me the story? Who knows the story? Okay, come, tell the story to everybody. Remind us, come. Yeah, Jesus is going to understand.
Oh, well.
What happened?
disciples didn't know that they thought that there was a big storm and they were singing, and the disciples were drunk, and then they calmed the storm.
So Jesus was in the boat with the disciples. He had gone into the boat, and he was feeling tired because he's been preaching, okay? And as he slept, the storm came. And you know what? All the disciples were scared. This was after he had done something. You know what he had done before that? He had revealed the truth that he's their Lord. But they didn't understand. They didn't trust him. They thought, it was all just, it's going to end. You're going to sink. You're going to drown. And that's why Jesus scolded that. Jesus said, and then he told the waves and the wind to stop. That's the power of God. The thing is that many times we go through in our lives that we are like the sheep. We expect the rain to just fall off on our side. We stay in the rain, right? Then sometimes we look around and we see, oh no, everybody's in the same boat. They're all the same sheep, right? We're all in the same rain. It's okay, I get. We're in the same boat, right? What's the problem? Everybody's doing it, right now. Everybody's doing it. So it's okay, I can just go on doing it. Just like, if everybody comes late for Mass, so big deal. It's alright to come late. If I don't tell someone that I'm not coming, it's okay, everybody's doing it. Right? But this is the thing. Do you realize there's something wrong there? Do you see that? Can you put that in your mind? So I'll leave that thought with you, because I don't want to throw too many things into your head as well. But this is something that's fundamental to our theme. But no one is saved alone. We are all saved together. Who is the one who saves us? The theoretical answer is Jesus. Just like the theoretical answer, I was saying, to change the world, we must save each other one person at a time, right? So when we say, who is the one who saves us, we always say Jesus. But you know what? Jesus is ascended to heaven and he gave us a great command. So who is the one who is supposed to save us? We are supposed to save each other. Because he is giving us a responsibility. It's no longer just, Jesus is the one who will save us. Yeah, Jesus is the one who will save us, but he's done his part. We've got a part to play now. We have a responsibility. And if we don't do it, then we actually fail Jesus. We have failed him. That's why it's actually a sin if we do not obey his commands. It's not because Jesus is going to come, that's what the Jewish people believe, They believe the Messiah will come on a white horse, save the Israelites from the Romans. But Jesus didn't do that. He came and he died and gave his life for us. So, put that thought in your head, and I'll just end off with a slide.
Okay, moving on.
Go on.
The pizza after. You haven't even come to that yet. Okay, before the food comes.
The overnight sleeper.
Okay, guys, hear me out. If Brian says something sarcastic, everyone take a paper and chuck it at him.
Okay, sure. I'll do that.
Right, just get your house.
Someone chuck something at him. Okay, Hudson.
Alright, I'm going to expand on Matthew's one. Calling you.
That is both creepy and very, very weird. You didn't get a call at 12:30 at night? I picked up. Kindly take a seat. I'll tell you exactly what happened, okay? I got a call at 12:30 at night from Celeste. So I was like, oh, why should we leave it at 12:30? So I declined the call, left it, right? And then I was just like, wait a second, Celeste, midnight, kids, 4:24, right? So I called her back thinking like, I don't know, maybe one of you has like sleepwalked in the wilderness somewhere, so we have to like go find you. So I called back and, which is I think it was like Senor Kyle and Senor Ryan, who was just like, oh, do you want papadam for 15 rupees? I was like, guys, go to bed. Okay, Renise.
I like the games.
Awesome. I like it.
Meeting new friends.
Oh, very nice. Oh. Will you be coming back next year and meeting more friends?
Don't know.
Anyone else? Madeline? Bob?
Yes, I'd like to commend the musicians on the quality of the music leading us into prayer.
Small groups and the reflections. Small groups and reflections. Anyone else? Celeste?
Not last night. No, I am a bit biased, but I am just very, very proud of the post-com team with the stage groups, and I'm
That video with the tiger and the bear, and I want to know how they showed it.
Me too. Daniel, you have to say something.
I enjoyed the sessions, the process, good seeing it acted out.
It actually looks fantastic, really. You're all done. Anyone else?
Building a mansion.
Building a mansion. Oh, yeah. Okay. Dario? Sense of community. Beautiful.
And the goal, yeah.
Okay, so amazing, wonderful things from everyone.
remove me from being supervisor next year.
Yeah, but everyone had a wonderful time, and I'm very happy to see like you guys stayed till the end. So well done, and well done to everyone who helped out. Rory, Peter, Dean, Daniel. Yeah, I'm sorry. So well done. Okay, I'm very hungry right now. Do anything with them and like. Okay, so now I will hand it over to Jeremy.
Oh, not yet, not yet. He's still going.
He's still marketing. So announced after dinner. So no worries, no problemo with that. Do you guys want to play a game?
Oh, wait, one second. Before that, we need to help set up for dinner tonight.
Sorry. So everyone, grab a table. Daniel, do you want to take it?
Yeah. So can everyone please, I guess, move your tables out onto this? Oh, not tables, chairs.
Still your guy. You have double time. Okay? So ready? Maria. Bye, Maria. And you just help me and to find out the next people are, okay? Now can go harder, okay? Kyle. Casper's out. No, none of you guys are out. Casper's out because I didn't say Casper's name. You're still in there. Okay? Hasha. Ty. Cash. Fine, Paris. Okay? Now it's a little faster, so it's more fun. Okay, ready? Matthew.
Oh my. Why not? He did that. He did that. Okay, bye, Ryan.
Okay, ready? Okay, ready? Rhiannon. Hi. Okay, cool. Daria. Not the time. Okay. Rio. Bye. You got the cheese and diamonds and I want to have the cheese doctor, so work it back up. I'll give you a pass on this one, okay? Okay, ready? Guys who are not out, if I can see it clearly. Okay, ready? Okay, Natalie. Natalie, bye. Okay, ready? Guys. Back. Guys. Okay, next. I'm a little faster, guys, so you better listen. Oh, thank you. Okay, next, faster. Daria. Ty. Tintin. Bayan. Okay? Jeremy Michelin, okay? Make sure you know the person next to you, okay? Eva. Bye, guys. Okay? Grace. Riva, bye. Okay? Pat. Bye, Harsha. Jeremy. Bye, Jeremy. Bye, Jeremy. Okay? Rhiannon. Bye, Rhiannon. Alina. Bye, Aisha. Take a second. Take a second. Ryan, watch carefully, okay? I know. Okay, Celestine. Choose the person, not the person's name I called. Okay, next one. Ty. Alina. Ty. Eva. Bye, Eva. Okay, Chris. Chris, what are you doing? I said Chris. Oh wait, Cash. You didn't get anything, so say it. Chris, you're up. Take a second. Ready? Guys, ready? Hudson. Good. Okay? Kyle. Bye, Kyle. Okay? Rio. Kyle. Okay, Ryan, can you step out so I can see through? Ramil. Ty. Celestine. Bye.
What's his name, Tina?
Okay, Reese. Bye. Okay. Okay, keep going. Okay. Okay. Okay, ready? Okay, guys, this is Celestine. What are you doing? Bring it down. Back up, good. Okay? Rio. Guys, can we play one more time?
Stronger, but you are higher than any.
we have the Catechism of the Catholic Church, which has got 2,700 decrees or statutes that we have in this book that the Church has invented over the years. So that goes on top of that. What else do we have? We also have canon law. It has got 1,700 laws that Church had made, and so that goes on top of that. Then it comes from the Archdiocese, some regularities, some days. We have the Bishops' Conference of Australia comes and still with a lot of laws. Then around all of that, we have the Vatican comes with all the things. So I just quoted some of it only. No. That's what the laws of the Catholic Church is all about. Now Jesus was asked this question, how are we going to live with all these laws? And he knew how difficult it was for the people of his time, that 613 rules and regulations they had to follow. And he put it very simple. Love God, love your neighbor, and love yourself. That's all you need to do. And he confined everything into very, very beautifully into a small little thing. And so when we enter into the readings of today, it really gives us the who we are, the root. For a tree to survive, the most important element is the root. So the root is so essential to trees.
Open the eyes of the blind. There's no one like you. None like you. Into the darkness you shine. Out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like you. None like you. Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God. In the darkness you shine. Out of the ashes we rise. No one like you. None like you. Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God. And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what can stand against? And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what can stand against? 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 Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God. Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God.
So we thank God for the wonderful people who are behind and organizing. First of all, we thank for your parents for sending you over to this program, and many others, helpers, those who are participants, those who are behind the scene. We bring everybody to the Lord in prayer. And we ask the Lord to commission you so that what we have encountered today, particularly that we are not journeying alone, that you are in the midst of the reunion. And so we hope we will keep that identity of who we are in our family and our community. And so when the Lord bless you, commission to experience this new way how He's going to enter into your life. Christ. Amen.
We ask Heavenly Father to bless these gifts that are set before us. So I'm going to say a prayer, and I'd like to invite you to say this grace prayer together with me. Bless us, O Lord, and these your gifts that we are about to receive from the bounty through Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you.
Everyone needs compassion. Everyone needs compassion. Love that's never failing. Let mercy fall.
Hand it back to David.
What was the difference between
It was 30 points to 26.
what about the same for one of them?
First and fifth, first got 30. Second got 26. Third got 25. Fourth got 23 and a half. And fifth got 23.
Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus, God, shine a light. Shine a light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen. Shine a light. Shine a light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen. Let's get back to Savior. Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever, forever. Author of salvation. He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Sing it one more time. Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation. He rose